Hi, I'm Megan Belanger. I'm a certified lymphedema therapist and oncology massage therapist, and this video is meant to walk you through the sequence for self-manual lymph drainage, also called MLD or lymphatic drainage massage, for the lower extremity. So if you are having swelling in one or both of your upper legs, your hips, your lower leg, or your foot, this sequence will hopefully help to drain those areas. So let's talk a little bit about when we would not want to do self-MLD. If you have any painful or enlarged lymph nodes, if there are areas that are unusually red or warm, or if you're just not feeling well in general. And if you are having those painful or enlarged nodes or that redness and warmth, absolutely contact your doctor so they can rule out things like infection. We're also not going to be using any lotion in our work because we want to stick to the skin. We're going to be stretching that skin and moving it, and we want to stay stuck to it. So we're not going to be gliding across the skin in any way. This work is gentle. It shouldn't cause any pain. It should not cause any redness. And the pressure we're going to use most of the time is just the weight of our hand. A lot of the lymphatic vessels are close to the skin, they're close to the surface, and so we don't want to be smushing those structures that we're trying to open. So we're going to keep it light. There are a few areas that I might use a little bit more pressure in the abdomen and in some of the destinations that I'll talk about when I go through the sequence. But most of the time it's very light. We're just thinking about stretching that skin. As far as timing goes, we are thinking about doing one stroke every 2 to 3 seconds. So it's slow. It is mimicking the natural rhythm of the lymphatic system. And we're going to do each stroke about 5 to 7 times in each of the hand positions. Now for the sake of making this video, I'm abbreviating things a little bit, so I might not be moving at 2 to 3 seconds and 5 to 7 times in each spot, just for the sake of not making the video super long. But if you are doing the full sequence, definitely go slowly, take your time, think about that 2 to 3 second interval, those 5 to 7 times. And then also add a little bit more time, intent, and focus on areas where you might be having more swelling. So all that said, let's get started. I'll talk about the 2 strokes that I'm going to talk about in this sequence, the stationary circle and the pump, and I will demonstrate them on my leg. So a stationary circle is really more of a half circle in that we're applying pressure for half of that circle, and then the second part of that circle we're just letting the skin come back to its original position. So if I'm doing a stationary circle here on my leg, half of that circle we're going outward and up and then letting it come back. So half of that circle's got some pressure to it and the other half we're just letting it come back to its original position. Now a pump, and I'll demonstrate this on my lower leg. Similar idea in that we're stretching the tissue kind of horizontally and then we're pumping it up toward our destination. So stretching horizontally and up, horizontally and up. And the reason we have that sort of horizontal, that sort of like a 2-directional bit to that stroke is that we're stretching the skin horizontally, thinking about opening up the anchoring filaments of those lymphatic vessels. And then we're pushing the fluid in the direction we want it to go in. So we're thinking about opening and moving the fluid in the direction we want to go in. So those are our 2 strokes. So let's get started with the sequence. And what I love about lymphatic work is I feel like it makes sense. You're thinking about where you want that fluid to go. You're thinking about how the lymphatic system is built and where you want to redirect your fluid. So we always start at the neck. The neck is where the lymphatic system ends. So it originates in the tissues, and any fluid that we might have picked up along the way is going to go into the cardiovascular system here at the subclavian vein right here at your collarbone. So we're going to stimulate that area first. So we're going to cross our hands and using as much surface area of our fingers and finger pads as we can, we're going to nestle into that fossa there. And we're going to do stationary circles inward and down. Inward and down. And we'll do that 5 to 7 times. Again, my pressure is light. I am just stretching the skin. Once we've opened up the neck, we're going to move down toward the abdomen. So the reason we're doing that is we're stimulating our thoracic duct, and that's the largest lymphatic vessel. The base of it is right here, kind of right above the navel, and it goes upward and into the subclavian vein. And there are tributaries that run from the lower extremities up into the thoracic duct, so we want to open up that big door there, that big vessel. Think of it as like a vacuum effect. And it runs through the diaphragm as well. So deep breathing is a great way to stimulate that thoracic duct. So I'm going to take both hands here, right below my ribs and between the area below my ribs and my navel. And when I breathe in, when I inhale, I'm going to provide a little bit of resistance. So it gives my diaphragm something to work against. So as I breathe in, and then when I exhale, I'm going to sink down, let it all relax, and I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure as I'm breathing out. Again, inhaling, I'm going to provide some resistance. And then sinking in when I exhale. I'm going to do this 5 to 7 times. I'm just going to do it once more. Inhale with resistance. And exhale, sinking in and applying some pressure. So now that we have opened up the neck and we've opened up the abdomen, let's think about which side is affected. So I'm going to pretend that my right leg here has lymphedema, and that these nodes here in the groin have been either radiated from radiation or they've been removed. And I'm going to also assume that all of the nodes here in my same side, my affected side armpit, are all intact, that they have not been removed, they have not been radiated. So I'm going to send fluid that way. So first I'm going to open up the nodes in my axilla. So with my opposite side hand, I'm going to put my hand right in my armpit there and do some stationary circles right there in that area. Once I've done that 5 to 7 times, I'm going to move below, and I'm going to do stationary circles moving upward toward our destination. Make sure you can see that. I'm still using that light pressure. Now when I was in the armpit and stimulating those nodes, I had a tiny bit more pressure because my intent was to wake up those nodes and be like, hey guys, let's get ready to receive some fluid. But once I'm stretching the skin outside of that, that stimulated destination area, I'm back to that really light pressure, just stretching the skin upward. I'm going to move my hand down one. Stationary circles upward toward the armpit. And kind of just along my ribs here. So I'm opening up, I'm creating this pathway. So now, once we reach the bottom of this set of ribs here, we've hit what I like to call a drawbridge. It's a watershed that separates the areas of drainage. So I'm going to put my hand here, it's right that space between your ribs and your hip bone, and I'm going to sort of scoop inward toward my navel. So my intention is to open up that drawbridge because we're going to be sending fluid across it. So now that drawbridge is open. And I'm going to move a hand position down below it and do a stationary circle upward towards my destination, toward my armpit. And then I will take it on its journey to its destination. 5 to 7 times in each spot, every 2 to 3 seconds. I know I'm probably going much faster. To our armpit, where our lymph nodes are intact and healthy. Now, assuming that the nodes on the opposite side groin are intact, they have not been removed, they have not been radiated, we're going to stimulate that area as well. If you have swelling in both legs, if there is reason to believe that these nodes are not healthy, not doing their job, you would only be bringing fluid this way, from the leg up to the armpit. This would be your major destination. But assuming that these nodes are intact, I'm going to open up this destination and bring some fluid across this way as well. So on the opposite side groin, and I like to think of it kind of right where your bikini line is, where your underwear line would be. I've got my pinky right up against that. We're going to do some circles in this direction, outward. I'll move this hand so you can see a little better. I'm going to move my hand position next to that. Stationary circles over toward this destination. Now we have another drawbridge kind of right here along the pubic bone. So I like to have my hands kind of this way, and we're going to open up that drawbridge in the direction of the unaffected side. This is kind of right over your bladder, so it's not real comfortable, especially if you have to use the bathroom, but stimulating, opening up that drawbridge. Once that drawbridge is open, a few more stationary circles, 5 to 7 times toward your opposite side groin destination. So now this destination has been stimulated, this drawbridge has been opened, let's bring it across. So hand position, we're avoiding this groin area because it has been, we call it the affected side, it's been compromised, maybe there's some members missing from the lymphatic department. So kind of right next to the groin here, stationary circles toward the unaffected side. We're going to bring it across the drawbridge that we opened and over here toward the unaffected lymph nodes. So now that we've opened up 2 different destinations, we can start working on the leg itself. And we're going to start here at the upper leg. Even if you have swelling in your lower leg or your foot, we're going to start here because we're thinking about sort of clearing this traffic jam area, opening it up so that we can clear the entire leg. So we'll start on the upper leg. We're going to start up high. I'm going to use 2 hands, and we're going to do those stationary circles outward and up. Stretching that skin horizontally and then up toward our destination. Now you can see I am avoiding directing any fluid into the groin area here, because we don't want to overtax a department where there might be some workers missing. So we are avoiding that area. So starting up high, 5 to 7 times. I'll move my hands down a little bit, sweeping to the side and then up. 5 to 7 times. A little closer to the knee. You can use 2 hands if you want, you can use 1. We also want to address the inner thigh as well. So using 2 hands, thinking about moving outward. So 5 to 7 times here. You can see I'm pushing that fluid laterally outward across the leg. I move my hands again. And once it's been pushed out laterally, I'm going to think about bringing it up toward our destination. So 5 to 7 times. Move our hand position again. And into the outside of the hip. I'm going to bring that fluid up to this destination, across this drawbridge. I'll just do 1 hand from here. Up to the axilla. And then I'll come back down here and move it across to our other destination. And again, if there are certain areas where you're feeling more swelling, we would be spending more time there. Sometimes right here on the side of the knee can be a tricky spot. It can be a common place for fluid to build up. So we might spend some more time here. Moving that laterally. And then up the side of the leg to each of our destinations. So now let's start with the knee. We'll start in the back of the knee because there are a collection of lymph nodes back there, so I like to make a basket with my hands. And thumbs on either side, and circles stimulating the nodes at the back of the knee. This is one of those areas where I will use a little bit more pressure than I am on, say, the upper or lower leg because we're stimulating nodes. Now I'll do some work along the sides of the knee too, kind of nestling the kneecap in between my hands. Thinking about bringing fluid upward. And again, if you have a lot of swelling around your knee, you can spend more time here. If you have a concentrated spot of swelling, you can use smaller tools. You can use less fingers. I tend to like to use as much surface area as I can, but if we're working with something a little smaller, you can be creative there. So once we've stimulated the knee, we will move that fluid. And again, I am abbreviating, but just so you can see the sequence. And again, up the side of the trunk to the armpit, and across the pubic bone to the opposite side. So now I'm going to bend my knee up and start working on the lower leg. This is a little bit more of a pump scoop technique. I will start here on the calf. I'm going to wrap my hand around the bottom of my calf, stretch the skin outward, and pull it up. Stretching outward, pulling it up. So working on the back of the calf here. Then I'll move my hand down, do the same motion, scooping it outward and up, scooping outward and up. And then one more hand position, close to the ankle, scooping outward, up, outward and up. And again, 5 to 7 times in each area. For the front of the shin, same idea, pushing outward and up. Moving downward. So can you see that logic of how we are clearing an area closer to the body and then moving farther away, moving distally and bringing fluid that way. So you're thinking about clearing the area first and then moving fluid through it. So you think about thinning out the traffic or thinning out the crowd so that you can pass through. And then one more hand position here on the front of the shin. So then once I've gotten down to the bottom of the limb, I'll use both hands. I'll bring that fluid up, do some more of that scooping underneath. 5 to 7 times, get back to the knee. I like to revisit the back of the knee multiple times because of those nodes there. And then again, you'll take that fluid on its journey to those destinations, across the drawbridge, up to the armpit, and across the pubic bone. So now to the foot. We will start here on the dorsal side of the foot. There's a lot of lymph collectors here on this side. So stationary circles, outward and up. And along the ankle, there can be some swelling there as well. So you can place your finger pads around the surface of the ankle and do those little stationary circles, concentrating on where you might have more swelling. Again, those circles are going outward and up, outward. Thinking about where you want to move that fluid. We'll go back to that dorsal surface. Most people do not have swelling at the bottoms of their feet, but if you would like to, you can address the plantar surface by stretching it out with your hands there, laterally, just stretching that skin laterally. After you've done that, you'll come back to that dorsal side, the top of the foot, where those collectors are. And then you can address each of the toes. I like to just use my thumb and forefinger, and again, you're going to start at the base of the toe, doing those little stationary circles. In 3-hand positions. The second one kind of in the middle of the toe. Thinking about pushing that fluid upward. And then the base of the toe. And again, depending on where your swelling tends to really accumulate, you might spend more time in a certain area. Once you've gotten to the tip of the toe, you can push the fluid through that toe, back to the base of the toe. And I won't go through all of the toes in this demonstration, but we would start there at the base and go through all of the toes. Once all the toes are done, you'll come back to that dorsal surface with your stationary circles, the ankle, and then the shin, your 3-hand positions all the way up. Again, I'm going faster and abbreviating. You would go through the calf area. And yeah, some of this is going to depend on how flexible you are. You might want to do this on your couch, which is why I'm demonstrating this on a massage table so that there's an area that you can stretch out in. Your knee. And then using both hands, moving that fluid outward and up, avoiding the affected area, thinking about pushing that fluid toward these other destinations, up the trunk, toward the axilla. And if these nodes are healthy and we have opened up that area, bringing it across to that area. And that is the sequence for self-manual lymph drainage for the lower extremity. Again, everybody is different. There are different modifications that might need to be made, and if you have questions, please contact your lymphedema therapist. Thank you very much.